Welcome everyone. My name is Sean, and I hope that all of you guys are enjoying your Christmas with your family and friends. I intend for this video to go up on Christmas. However, today we're actually going to take a break from the festivities and talk about a tragic story that has been unfolding repeatedly, according to a lawsuit, in the South Atlanta suburbs, in a hospital that is meant to care for our most vulnerable. And of course, I'm talking about those people with serious mental illnesses. People who, by the way, are supposed to be remanded to the custody of the hospital, but again, according to this complaint, the hospital has no security procedures or inadequate security procedures, so patients escape time and time again, and unfortunately, due to their mental state, they ultimately end up getting seriously hurt, and in one particular instance, actually getting killed because the hospital just kind of let the patient wander out. So we're going to talk about this. We're going to discuss how absolutely horrible these procedures are if this complaint is true. But before I do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
A Metro Atlanta hospital accused in a lawsuit of putting vulnerable patients at risk. This as dozens of patients are reported missing each year.
Well, Southern Regional Medical Center in Riverdale faces claims of being understaffed and unsecured. The family of a patient alleges in the lawsuit the facility's staffing and security issues led to his death.
So this segment opens up by telling you that a family is blaming the hospital for the death of their relative who ended up being able to leave a hospital. And I have assessed the facts of this case, and I do in fact believe that the hospital is at fault. You see, in the United States of America, we made some political decisions to close mental asylums and change the standard from not being able to take care of yourself in order for you to be remanded to being a threat to yourself or a threat to others, which is a much higher standard for committing somebody. However, in this particular instance, the man that you're about to see footage of was in fact committed based on that higher standard. He should have been held in a hospital, but unfortunately, not only did he escape and escape relatively easily, he ultimately ended up interacting with law enforcement, in which he pulled a weapon on those police officers, and it ended up costing him his life in what for the officers was a justified shooting. However, for the hospital, should be something that they're held accountable for.
What you're about to see are the final minutes of Daryl Lynn Fussel's life. Riverdale police respond to a call for suspicious person. Daryl kneeling on the ground.
You got that tool, and then he started hitting himself on his head.
23-year-old never speaks.
Hey, boss man, Riverdale PD, what's going on?
Daryl gets up, grabs scissors from the nearby toolbox.
Hey, stay away from that.
Despite commands,
Stay away from that! Hey! Hey!
Riverdale police found the shooting justified with no policy violations. The Clayton County DA agreed.
Stay away from that!
There was no criminal wrongdoing.
If Daryl Lynn had never eloped from the hospital.
Yeah.
He never would have encountered that police officer.
Exactly.
So right here, you have the mother of the man who was killed in this particular story. And in a very clear way, she says, look, my son would have never interacted with this police officer had it not been for the fact that the hospital did not hold him. And we trusted the hospital to hold him because he was actually remanded to their care hours before he ended up having that fatal interaction. So you have a clear-eyed assessment of the circumstances right here from the mom, and honestly, I 100% agree with her assessment of the facts as laid out in this local news segment, because when they break them down, you understand that there's no way, shape, or form that a paranoid schizophrenic should have been released hours later after what should have been a bare minimum 3-day hold.
Just hours earlier, Daryl was on an involuntary hold at Southern Regional Medical Center. Diagnosed with schizophrenia, he was a 1013 patient, a status which allows detainment of an individual in crisis who is posing a danger to themselves or others. Yet, police records describe Daryl managed to run past the nurse watching him and escape the hospital.
Yeah, that's right. This man, hours before he was killed by the police, was committed to a hospital. They were supposed to hold him. They knew he was a danger to himself. They knew he was a danger to others. They knew he suffered from paranoid schizophrenia, and yet they only assigned one single nurse in order to watch him, and guess what? He was able to run past the nurse, and that's how he escaped. That's how he ended up getting that disturbed person call. That's how he ended up drawing the scissors on the police, and that's what ultimately ended up costing his life.
When you do everything right, and the system still fails you.
And nobody wants to be accountable.
Look, the mother is right. She is correct in this situation. They did what they needed to do for their son. They were in his life. They were trying to take care of him. They ended up participating in bringing him to the hospital where he should have been safe. They got the hold placed on him. They did everything that you're supposed to do when you have somebody who is a danger to themselves and others, under the premise that the hospital would actually have qualified people there, would actually have the procedures necessary in order to hold him. They didn't, and it ended up costing their son their life. And by the way, you guys might remember in the Jordan Neely case, a similar situation actually occurred, although it was the court that stepped in, not the family, where Neely ended up pleading guilty to an assault. He was told to go to treatment at a mental health facility. However, 13 days later, he walked out on his own volition, and he ultimately ended up dying in a train when he was threatening other passengers, and he was restrained by Daniel Penny. How many times do we have to see this, that even when our system is actually adequate or up to the task, or can actually deem somebody worthy of being removed from the streets, that they just end up on the streets again in the first place, and then of course they end up getting killed as a result of that. This is one of the maddening things about the major policy change in the United States of America post the closing of the asylums. The standard was changed from not being able to take care of yourself as a reason for you to be remanded into custody to being a danger to yourself or others, which is a much higher bar that usually involves you attacking someone or trying to harm yourself, or doing both, or doing them multiple times before you're actually held in custody. In this particular instance, this man met that standard. They all knew they should have taken the procedures and the proper protocols. They didn't, and now he's dead.
Hey, boss man, Riverdale PD, what's going on?
Daryl's April 2023 death was not the first time a vulnerable patient escaped Southern Regional Medical.
Mental health crisis shouldn't be a death sentence.
In the last 3 years, 44 patients ran away. At least 28 were psychiatric patients on involuntary holds.
So they give you the numbers right there of the amount of patients that have escaped from this particular hospital. They say 44 total, but what we're really interested in is that 28 on involuntary holds, because these are the people that you are very likely to expect to attempt to escape, and yet they're losing around 10 of them a year to that escape. And it turns out there's a number of reasons why this is occurring, and one of the main reasons is the fact that the hospital is completely inadequately staffed. They have no security procedures, and many a time the protection or the holding of these psychiatric patients is down to just one registered nurse for the whole hospital. One nurse is in charge of making sure sometimes these adult males that are paranoid schizophrenics stay in the hospital. That is crazy in every possible way.
Federal records provide some insight illustrating a history of federal policy violations. Like an investigation last year said, a patient found unresponsive in the psych area ultimately died. There was only one working registered nurse at the time. As a result, inspectors deemed Southern Regional in immediate jeopardy, a determination given when a facility's non-compliance has or could cause serious harm or death. It makes a hospital potentially ineligible to receive federal funds. Before this federal investigation, a state inspection days earlier substantiated some concerns. A complaint to the Georgia Department of Community Health alleged a patient died in the behavioral unit. No clinical staff members present for 7 hours prior to his death due to short staffing. There was fraudulent false documentation that every 15 minutes observations were being conducted. Fussell family attorney Jane Lamberti, reacting to our findings.
To me, what it suggests is that there's an awareness about the problem and it's not being taken care of.
Look, I'm not somebody who's very lawsuit happy, who thinks you should sue everyone for everything and never take accountability for yourselves. However, when both this person's parents are participating in his life, they end up participating in the commitment of their son to this hospital. Their son ends up escaping, he ends up getting killed, and then we have all this documentation of previous investigations that show that not only is the hospital chronically understaffed and therefore to the point where there are potential danger to every patient in that hospital, but then they're falsifying documentation in order to cover up the fact that they're understaffed and that patients are dying. That's what lawsuits are for. That's what consequences are for. And honestly, maybe some criminal charges should be applied to the people who sign off on this. Obviously, if you're that one registered nurse and you have to deal with detaining all of these people on involuntary psych holds, then it's not on you alone. You're put in a terrible position, an unwinnable position, and you do the best that you can, but obviously you can't do all that well. But if you're the hospital administrative staff and you're continuously accepting patients that you know for sure you're completely inadequate in caring for, and it's cost many patients their lives, you need to face the consequences of those actions.
Southern Regional would not interview with Atlanta News First Investigates about its security measures or patients reported missing, saying since this is an active legal matter, we have no information to provide at this time.
How you feeling?
The Fussell family now sued for nursing malpractice, negligence, wrongful death.
There are so many levels of the ball dropping in our son's situation that it's egregious.
Now look, obviously this is not surprising that the hospital is going to do the no comment thing because you have ongoing litigation against them, but even if the lawsuit weren't filed, even if it wasn't pending and needed to be adjudicated, the fact of the matter is they would not be responding for comment because there appears to be, according to this, no excuse for this kind of thing. And again, even beyond the current lawsuits, you have the federal investigation and the state investigation that are showing the same thing, that they completely are inadequate and not up to the task of taking care of the serious mentally ill. And essentially, when you drop a patient off there due to the fact that they refuse to staff their hospital properly, then you're basically gambling on their lives. Because again, even if you're not somebody who's suffering from a serious mental illness, you have all those other escapees that happen at the hospital. And in addition to that, they're short staffed. So if you end up having a crisis, it could be a very long time before somebody comes up and assists you. Again, that 7-hour story of somebody getting killed or dying in the psych ward and them faking documentation after the fact is crazy in every possible way. And again, why we have lawsuits, why we have extra means to hold these people accountable. I 100% agree with this family right here. They have every right to be outraged, they have every right to be angry, and they have every right to demand accountability for the hospital. Here you have both parents in their son's life. Their son has a serious mental illness. They're doing everything and anything in order to care for him, in order to treat that illness. They end up committing him to an involuntary hold, again, that's supposed to be bare minimum 48 hours to 72 hours, and you would think that their son would be able to be trusted with these people to be safe for more than a couple of hours. But this hospital failed completely. They knew he was a paranoid schizophrenic. They assigned one staffer to watch him. He ran past that staffer, and they had no alternative way in order to track this guy, in order to find him, in order to make sure that he got the help that he needed. And he ended up in a situation where he pulled a weapon on the police, where he was seen as an imminent threat, and it cost him his life. So yes, they are accountable for these actions 100%. There should be more investigations, there should be potential criminal charges, and they definitely should pay through the nose to this family. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you like this video, show me by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about a hospital in Atlanta abandoning their mentally ill son. Till next time.